of the tail so it doesn't fall over. A lot of the T-38 trainers here. Many countries are flying them, and they're right here for spare parts, along with about 200 of the F-4 Phantoms. On this first one, you see this RF here, you see a great big red D on it with an X through it, and on the tank it says empty. That means they've gone through that airplane and there's no chemicals in there, there's no pyrotechnics, no fuel, no flammables. So the next stop for that airplane, there'll be a great big machine that comes along with a big set of jaws, and they'll chop it up for scrap metal. In fact, we saw one here. See if we can see it up further. There's that machine where they chop up the airplanes. These are the B-1 Lancer bombers. This first row's been here for years. They're just bringing in the second row the darker colored painted airplanes, but they're here for spare parts, and you can see none of them have the lower part of the rudder, the horizontal tail. A couple of years ago, they started putting them all up on the sawhorses so they could take off landing gear. That white thing there is an auxiliary fuel tank that goes up inside of one of the 3 bomb bays, allows them to carry an awful lot more fuel. Again, some more of the Phantoms, and coming up are the Lockheed C-5 Galaxies. This is the U.S.'s biggest airplane. Max takeoff weight on this, 840,000 pounds. It can carry 2 of those huge Army tanks inside of it. Russians have one that's even bigger, 6 engines that grosses over 1 million pounds. The Air Force had about 110 of these in service, and again, with all the budget cuts, they're going to cut the fleet in about half. So they'll be retiring about 50 of those big airplanes here, so we need a lot of space to store them. The ones that they're going to keep in service are the C-5Ms. They've all been upgraded with a new engine that's more powerful and fuel efficient, and all of them have new electronics in them. In addition to that big space inside, up and right before the tail, there's a second deck where they can hold 80 passengers up there as well. We're going to get one for the museum. Imagine one day we might, if we could find some more place to put the thing. It takes up, of course you can get a lot of other airplanes underneath it there, but yeah. And of course here's the A-10s. A lot of these have all had the wings off, so they were doing the wing modification on it, but these last 2 are gray ones from Davis-Monthan, just have been here in the last couple of months. They're bringing them in. Way off in the distance are the B-52 bombers, the earlier versions, the G models that have been cut up into pieces as part of the first Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, where both Russia and the U.S. is getting rid of some of their long-range nuclear delivery capabilities. Of course, when they chop them up, they have to physically move them apart from one another, so when the Russian satellite comes over, takes a picture to check up, they can say, yep, they really did chop that one up. Either side of the road is the manufacturing, tooling, and assembly jigs used to build the B-2 stealth bomber. There's the jig for the cockpit assembly area. You can see all the windows. And then on the other side is the tooling that was used to build the B-1 Lancer. So here's all the equipment that built our last 2 bombers in the U.S. Makes a lot of sense to store it here rather than at the government facilities. They would charge an awful lot more. And initially they brought it here in case someone backed in the side of an airplane, put a big dent in it, they would have the tooling to make a spare part for it. But with all the